Warriors, what's good? Hope all is well with everybody. Just checking in with you guys. I know it's been a few weeks since I did a video. Been taking a deep dive into my subconscious the past several weeks in this Cancer season to integrate more of my divine self into my conscious awareness. It's a lot of stuff that I wanted to talk to you guys about, but I kind of had to take some notes so the video wouldn't be too long or I wouldn't get too off course in delivering a specific message. So we'll cover the basics. So like I said, we just came out of Cancer season, dealing with those deep, dark, emotional waters within the subconscious mind, which is why you guys haven't seen me, because I had to do my own shadow work so that I can integrate more of my divine self into my conscious awareness for ascension. So I had the opportunity, like I said, to do copious amounts of shadow work to break up that ice on the heart space, you know. It's very interesting the amount of trauma that we accumulate through our life, especially in childhood, that we feel is irrelevant now, but actually are some of our biggest barriers to us being able to create or live the life that we see fit for ourselves. So the last few weeks I did a lot of clearing in my mind to hit that 0 point, you know, having a blank mind, to connect with the ethers, to just be able to just get to a still point, to be still, to be at peace, beyond the daily routine, beyond the challenges, beyond the hopes and wants and all that kind of stuff, just to exist. And as I understand more esoterically, I feel the power in overstanding my authority esoterically. So going deep within myself, I understand my authority that I have in all dimensions in which I exist in, or I'm beginning to reawaken or go into deeper levels of that understanding beyond this 3D space, beyond the frivolous things that we get caught up in day to day. And I've been here many times, but this time I can tell it's for keeps. One of the things that kind of came to mind was that, you know, there's so many tools and techniques within the spiritual community that are taught from a very dogmatic perspective. Because most people are coming from dogma, they don't realize that they're still operating from that space to some degree or growing beyond that space. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because, you know, spirituality is being pushed like a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. You know, same way nutrition is, the same way fitness is. And the truth of the matter is, none of it really matters if you can't connect to it. You can't feel it, because feeling gets the blessing. So, you know, an individual will need to be able to understand that they have to take what works for them, what they can feel and connect to, and grow from there, no matter what it is. Whether it's a certain religion that you subscribe to, or certain religious practices, I mean, you can write, you can pray, you can meditate for thousands of hours, but if you can't feel it, it's irrelevant. It's vain. You know, so just checking my notes real quick, make sure I didn't skip anything. Okay. So basically, you know, like I was saying, like you can use a variety of things that you connect to, because it has to be tailored and custom to your unique identity of you, because your life is different from everyone else's. Your walk is different from everyone else. This one-size-all approach, I feel like it does the same thing that a lot of times causes people issues with religion, because then it doesn't work, and that leads to a broken spirit, a lack of hope, disparities of all kinds, because they didn't have the understanding that they would need to go within themselves and trust their own intuition. And I can remember this very vividly as a teenager, dealing with several different difficult challenges, and praying and praying and praying and praying and praying. Now, prayer works. It definitely works, but you know, the way I was praying from more or less an empty space, or a space out of fear. God, please don't let this. Oh, I hope that. Universe doesn't really answer to that. It gives you more of that, and I didn't understand that. I'll get more into that a little bit later. But there are certain things that are inevitable as you continue to grow. One of those would be breathing. You can't get away from it. I mean, when we start talking biochemistry, or we start talking about how the essence of breath is so important. I mean, you can't live this life without breathing. So, you know, I just leave it there. I'm not going to go too deep into these things. I'm just giving you guys a summary as to some of the things that I've been paying attention to this past Cancer season and in this Leo season, you know, and where I'm at with my walk, you know. And hopefully some of this will help you. Or maybe you guys have been feeling some of the same and doing some of the same things, you know, as warriors do. So as we came out of Cancer season, dealing with things in that subconscious mind, into Leo season that deals with matters of the heart, we had all kinds of stuff going on. Transits, portals, Mercury retrograde, Saturn retrograde, trines, squares, so forth and so on. And we're going to continue to be dealing with a lot of these things over the next several weeks. So it's going to be a lot of shifty energy. But one of the things that I was able to do was identify a certain block that was keeping me from having more capacity from my heart space. Anger. Now, you know, I'm a pretty chill person for the most part, unless you cross me, you know. And even with that, I've gotten a little bit more wisdom and discernment about how to deal with things through the years. But at one point in time in my life, I was extremely angry, a hot fuse. And, you know, a lot of people that knew me knew this about me, you know, quiet, but if you cross them, like, you're gonna have some issues. And I always wanted to know then why I was so angry. Like, why am I so angry? And I think what happened was I kind of learned how to mask it, and it became numb to the point of where I just didn't feel it anymore, and I thought I dealt with it. But I've been digging really deep because I want more in my life, so I got really clear in my mind. Got to that 0 point so I can hear the voice of the Father, Creator. And he was trying to help me understand that anger was sitting on my heart and blocking me from what I really wanted in my life, the clarity, and it created a fallacy. So let me give you a little quick breakdown of an example of what I mean. So now it's not wrong with being ahead of the game and being on point and things like that, but usually I'm always 10 steps ahead of everything and everybody that I'm associated with. And some can see this as a good thing, and I'm pretty sure many of you are the same way too, to some capacity. But what I learned with me, the reason why I was always ahead and thinking ahead and planning ahead and looking at this and looking at that, was because it was stemming from a childhood wound of feeling unsafe. But it was deep when I actually realized it. It was like, blew my mind. But most children that grow up in environments that don't feel safe or feel like they're gonna be punished for something that's out of their hands or judged by unstable adults or toxic, violent environments or traumatic experiences, always are thinking to keep ahead, to keep safe. Is this one of those things that happen? It's normal in that environment. Like, I'm not gonna let you get me. I'm not gonna let you get me. So as an adult, this causes a person to overanalyze everything, and eventually leads to habits like overthinking, which could lead to analysis paralysis, and etc. So that's just an example of like how a childhood wound can play out in your adult life and limit your capacity and open the gate, which I'll get to later. So these type of wounds cause you to leave your gates open for an attack by all kinds of enemies. And this is why spell work is so effective. So you'll run across people that will say like, that's not true, that doesn't work, that stuff isn't real. The only way it works is if you allow it to work. So you hear a lot of this kind of stuff, right? Trying to tell you that there's no such thing as an enemy. But what if you do got an enemy? Let's talk about that. Like you know for sure that there's certain things coming against you and you're trying to do your best to be in a certain place, but it's obvious that there's some other factors that are taking place. Well, they're partly right, only partly right. And this goes a lot deeper than what I'm going to say, but I'm just going to unload this here. A lot of times you didn't understand that you had a Judas within you that was continuing to open that gate for your enemies. So don't beat yourself up, How could you know? How could you understand? But you come into understanding to overstand about what that means and how to deal with this. So Judas. Judas is that part of yourself where you portray yourself, don't trust yourself, don't love yourself, abandon yourself. So you have to deal with that Judas within you to keep things from happening like this. But you got to be able to recognize it, which means you got to be able to pinpoint it, which means you got to be able to hear the voice of the Father, which means you got to be able to get to that 0 point to get clear so that you can receive that word from yourself. There's levels to this thing, man. Checking my notes real quick. Now, you still will have enemies the brighter your light gets. That's just a given. But at least you'll know how to protect yourself and close those gates. And when you get to a certain level, when something comes against you, then you know that there's something within you that you need to find to fix. This is how I do it. So when those attacks come, I use that energy to fix and heal that thing within myself, alchemize that energy for spiritual cash, or if they continue to do it, shit, I return that shit back to them 100-fold. And that's all getting into alchemy, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But yeah, you can send that right back to them, but you got to be able to recognize certain things within yourself, which means you got to be able to move past the ego. The ego is definitely there to protect you, but you got to be able to keep balance with that thing so that you're not lying to yourself, because you can be your own enemy. So now you're supporting your enemies take you out. Alright, so I got some more notes, but I'm not going to get too long. I'm going to kind of cut some of this out. So, that's enough food for thought. So, tomorrow, the 19th, we have a super blue full moon in Aquarius, loaded. So there's going to be some shifty energies that we're dealing with, like I said, over the next several weeks. But as that energy gets stirred up and you're having to deal with things good, not so good, whatever, use it to your advantage. You have the authority over your entire existence. Never forget that. All before we moving into Virgo season. So I'll be getting with you guys real soon, sooner than, I have this last video. I know it took a couple weeks because I had to do some work within myself, but I got some other stuff lined up that I know will be very helpful and beneficial. So I plan on sharing a lot of that. One last thing. Soldiers are good at taking orders. Warriors lead the way. Remember that. Love y'all. Peace.